All right, Nick, let's talk about the Detroit Lions. We can't say it enough. Fantastic season last year. Didn't exactly end the way you want it to, but if you look at where you were a few seasons ago as to where you were last year, that's a heck of an improvement, and it shows Dan Campbell and this formula he's putting together. These young players that are rising through the ranks, they're the real deal. There's something special brewing on this Lions squad, and we look at the running back position for the Lions. There's another guy who's really just showing that he's fitting this Lions formula. He's really starting to impress. I think he could be a breakout potential character on this team as far as a guy that's really going to impress that people maybe not talking about as much. Let's get in the article and we'll talk more about this on the other side. This is from Pride of Detroit. It says, Sion Vaki possesses an old school work ethic mentality that has captured coaches' attention during the draft process, illustrating that he is willing to put extra effort into learning the Lions' offensive scheme and how he can help the team in his role. It says, he just understands, okay? Here's what we're doing here. Here's why we're doing it. And this is how it fits into the schematic whole for our football club. Lions running back coach Scotty Montgomery said of Vaki during OTAs. He says, so everything that he learns every day, he has it. He has it as good as most guys that we see from the rookie standpoint, from mental error standpoint, the fundamental piece of the position. We've still got to go a little ways, but mental error wise, he's been very, very good. Nick, I think this is pretty much as good of a compliment as you give to a guy like Vaki, because everybody who makes it to the NFL, they're talented athletes. It's the mental mistakes that you have to really conquer your rookie season to start to get into the swing of things. And from this perspective, I think Vaki has done a significant job getting those out of the way very early on. It seems like he really doesn't have many, if any, at all. So I'm curious what your thoughts on Vaki are. But before we get to you, Lions fans, in the comment section below, talking about Vaki, talking about fourth round picks. We're talking about who potentially is the greatest Lions fourth round pick of all time. Could it be Vaki? We will see. But let us know before we get there, who do you think the Lions' greatest fourth round pick of all time is in the comment section below. While you're down there, check the description below the video. If you're looking for a great book to read this summer, if you go on vacation or something along those lines, we have a list of our favorite books pertaining to the NFL. Scratch that football itch while you're down there. Read books about great coaches, the game of football, the history of football, or breaking down the league as a whole. Some good recommendations down there, so check it out in the description below the video. But Nick, what are your thoughts on Vaki?
Look, the fact that he's got the mental side of the game down is absolutely outstanding. And it's really incredible when you think about it, considering that Vaki was essentially a kind of two-way, do-everything football player in college. He was a safety, more primarily running back kind of spot dude, even though obviously he'll be a running back for the Lions in the National Football League. But it's important to understand that number 3 running back position for the Lions is kind of an underrated key point. We know Montgomery has missed time each of the last 4 seasons. Gibbs obviously missed some time last year as well. So there's going to be a game or 2 or 3 where they're going to have to rely on a running back 3 like Vaki to step up and be the running back 2 and be involved in a lot of situations, most likely in the pass game, spelling the starter, pass protection. You're going to have to know the entire scheme if you're going to be the third string running back for the Lions, as well as having the athleticism to be a kick returner, where I think a lot of Vaki's value really is. I think that's what we're going to use him early on with the new kick returning rules. But look, this is one impressive kid. I love his stat line last year at school at Utah. He had 51 tackles, 8.5 for loss, 2 sacks, 1 pick, ran 42 times for 317 yards, 7.5 yards per carry, while also catching 11 passes for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, 18.5 yards per reception. I mean, this is just a football player, and it just reminds me of the early 2000s New England Patriots, that early part of that dynasty, when they were basically just Belichick, Brady, and a bunch of kind of like average, forgotten about football players who could do everything. Whether it was Troy Brown at wide receiver, a punt and kick returner, whether it was Mike Vrabel being a pass rusher that had basically been left for dead career-wise, that moonlighted as a tight end, right? That was a Patriots team that won titles and won champions because they created an entire roster full of do-everything football players who were smart, who avoided mental mistakes, who were competitive. That's exactly what the Lions are getting here in Vaki. And they've gotten a lot of additions like this over the past few years. And these are the kind of players, these are kind of the championship players, the guys that push you over the top. You obviously have the stars. You've got the Goffs, you got the Amon-Ra St. Browns, you got the Hutchinsons, you got the Sewells, of course, right? Those are your stars. Those are the guys that are going to carry your team. But in big moments, either during the regular season due to injuries or during the postseason, it's these do everything football players that can step up and make a big play. And I think Vaki has the potential to be just that kind of guy.
Yeah, and I think you touched on it, his versatility here. I think that really what puts him over the edge of all these other running backs. You talk about his special team prowess, but I think you just look at his tape in college, what he was able to do as a safety, what he was able to do as a running back. You know, this is a guy who is so impressive all over the field. It's almost like you can't not have him out there when you have the opportunity to put him out there. Just, and I know, a guy of his caliber, it might take a little bit of time before he comes into his own as like a full-time type of running back. But this is a guy, like you said, whether it's kick returns, whether it's third down back, whether it's a guy who needs to take a spell for here and there, whether it's quite possibly inevitable injury that strikes the running back room. It always seems to happen in these modern day NFL running back rooms. To have a guy like Vaki on this roster is so valuable because of everything he brings to the table. And I think eventually he will work himself up into being a starting caliber of running back on this team. Might take a year or so for him to really get all the reps, get used to things and how it works out. But I think the Lions had a heck of a pick here in the 4th round with Vaki.